Booting off of the USB thumb drive. This is perhaps the most difficult task out of everything in this network setup. Welcome to my studio, and what we're going to do in this step is try to boot off of this USB thumb drive. So over here, going to have a makeshift server rack. We're interested in this machine up here on the top. And it is this top machine that we're going to try to install Windows 8 onto. So if you notice, I kind of have it laying on its back. So if we look down here, we see that the feet are right here. So just trying to get orientated on which direction this machine is laying down on. And I have the USB drive that has Windows 8 on it from the previous steps plugged into the third USB port from the top. So with this machine laying on its back, it is the third USB port from the top. So I'm going to explain what's going to happen here before I actually do it, because it actually happens pretty fast. When I restart my computer on its way up, we're going to see a Dell splash screen. And at the Dell splash screen, what I'm going to do is press F12. I'm going to be tapping it on my keyboard until it tells me that it's going to enter the one-time setup menu or boot menu or something along those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and restart my computer. So recall the USB thumb drive is already plugged in. That was the first step. So the second step, we're actually going to restart, and we're going to press F12 on the keyboard when it comes up and we see the Dell splash screen. This is probably the most difficult step of this entire network setup. So here we go. So at this screen here, it says F12 for boot options on the upper right. I'm tapping F12, there we go. Preparing one-time boot menu. And it usually takes a little while. And it looks like it's starting up normally. And then eventually it gets to this screen, which is different from what we had before. So here we're presented with several options. See if we can zoom in and see what those options are. Right here. So the option that we're interested in is that third one that says USB storage device. This is the one that we're interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter on the keyboard once I have it selected. And now it's actually booting off of that thumb drive. Try to zoom out a little bit so you can see the whole screen. You'll get something that looks like this. That's kind of the Windows 8, I guess, Windows logo. It's a little different from Windows 7. Visually it's a lot more flatter, probably because it was designed for the tablet. And on the tablet the screen is much smaller, so you can't really see depth as well. So if you see a window that looks like this, that means you have successfully booted off of the USB thumb drive. What to do if this did not work? So if you were unable to boot off of the USB thumb drive, what you should do. First, I would ask that you be patient and try again, and sometimes again and again and again. The second thing you should do after about 12 attempts is to check and see if you are pressing the correct setup key. So F12 is for Dells only. So if you don't have a Dell computer, or if you have an older model Dell, it may not be the F12 key. It may sometimes be F2 or the delete key. The third thing is you need to check to see if your keyboard is actually working. So it may be that you are pressing the correct key, but the computer is unable to receive the input. So what I would do in this case is try plugging your keyboard into a different USB port. So if you have like 12 USB ports on your computer, you're pretty much going to have to try 12 times until you find the one that actually works. I will give you a little bit of a hint. On the Dells, the startup typically like the front USB ports. So if you have USB ports on the front of your Dell, I recommend trying those first, because it's usually not the ones in the back, from my experience. Fourth is, if your model Dell is different, try plugging the USB drive into a different USB port. So again, I would try using the front of the Dell USB ports and not the back ones. Next tip here is the install media may be corrupted, meaning you may need to recreate it. So the USB install media may not work. So make sure that you're going through the process of creating bootable media. If you skip a step, it will definitely not work. So make sure that you definitely follow the steps very, very closely as you can. And then lastly, if none of these tips work, I recommend consulting a computer vendor or a tech friend to help you get through this task.